the big difference that I have, to have God. And through my journey in martial arts, going from Scott Coker fighting in ESPN, and then fighting in K1, then for his fight promotion, he decided to do MMA, and the first fight card was in San Jose, and they asked me to be the main, the co-main event to Frank Shamrock, and next thing I know, I was fighting MMA. My name is Cung Lee, former Strikeforce Middleweight Champion and UFC fighter.
Welcome to The Vietnamese. I'm your host, Kenneth Nguyen. Being part of a culture of nearly 100 million Vietnamese people in the world today comes with a lot of pain, proud history, and privilege. Join me as I highlight and explore the Vietnamese experience from all over the world.
What does it mean to be Vietnamese to you nowadays?
I take pride because I'm Vietnamese, and every time I fought, I always represent my people, the Vietnamese people, and all the people across the world. And especially here in America, it's like the Asian community is there's a lot of violence going on, a lot of Asian hate going on, and every time I fought, I remember when I was younger, I grew up, I was being bullied, coming to this country from, Vietnam, and, it was tough. So, and times are tough now for everyone. And it's not because you get bullied in school, but there's real criminals out there trying to, hurt the Asians,
Yeah.
And it's not just the Asians, but it's happening everywhere with everything. But there's a massive increase in the Asian hate crimes.
How old were you when you started the martial arts?
I started martial arts when I was 10, more because I was getting beat up a lot and bullied. So my mom wanted me to, do some kind of martial arts, and she took me to a few classes. I liked it, but it was never consistent because my mom had to work sometimes 3 jobs.
Yeah, and when you started to do martial arts, did you see an improvement in getting bullied or, school, interactions with other kids?
Actually, when I was getting bullied and then I started taking martial arts, because I had a really good teacher, I was able to walk away from trouble. But then later on, when I got to junior high, it was a little bit different, because if you didn't hold your ground and you're a chicken, it was a lot of it was like peer pressure or just the influences that was going on at the time. So a lot of times if you don't stand up for yourself, then you're going to keep getting picked on. And I realized I kept getting picked on. So I just started, if someone's picking on me, I just threw the first punch.
See, and that's the thing I think about society today, or kids today, or, just the decision to take the first punch if you're getting picked on as a group of people, like Asians, or, high school, you're getting picked on by yourself. How do we tell our kids, I have young kids, and when they get to junior high, or I'm wondering, do I tell my son, like, no, just beat the fuck out of whoever picks on you? Or do I hold that back and say, no, just walk away?
Actually, now with me, because also, my son, he can hurt someone, but at the same time, all my sons can, they all know martial arts, and my other 2 from my wife, Sunshine, very athletic, and just very athletic, so they can hold their own. But I would just say, why, 2 wrongs won't make a right. So the best as a parent, as a dad, you got to guide your son to be able to talk his way out of it, or just ignore it, back up and get out of out of that harm's way. Because I think when you fight someone, the only thing that you really gain is actually 2 things that you gain. You either hurt someone, or you get hurt, or you both get hurt, but then you have an enemy. Why do you want an enemy? Right. That's why instead it's all about, being, trying to be like, look what Jesus taught us, how he walked, how he treated his disciples. That you got to be the light in this world, or there'll be too much darkness. So you got to tell your kids, hey, even though you know how to fight, just walk away from it. Why hurt someone?
Knowing what you just said today, right? The idea of like Jesus Christ and how he treats people, would you have like go back in time? And I mean, would you see it differently in terms of like getting into the fight game?
For me, I believe my journey is everything that happened for a reason. That's what I truly believed, right? I was able to represent the Vietnamese people, but I was able to give all my glory to God Almighty, the Most High. And now that I'm raising,
Fighters.
Well, boys, and I was coaching at one time, and being from the fight game, I'm able to kind of navigate through this craziness. I mean, I think back then had its like peak, but right now there is no peak. The world we live in just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, that's what I see. I'm not sure what you see, but I don't see, where everything's going to go back to being great. It's not. I think, it's just going to get worse.
Oh, when you were coming up as a 10-year-old and you were going through martial arts, did you think like this is a professional route that you would take one day?
Definitely not. I just knew that every time I come home and, my mom says, why didn't you fight back? I didn't know how. So I told her what I do, I do my best. And then, this story goes in different, like stages, right? This is the first time I'm open to just speak about it because I feel like it'll help other kids, right? At the time, I didn't know how to fight. I didn't know how to do martial arts. I wasn't wrestling, so I didn't know how. And before on a few of my other interviews, I just kind of skipped it or just said that, when I finally did stand up for myself, I started throwing the first punch, right? So basically what happened was just, I didn't know what to do. So I asked my mom, I don't know what to do. And she says, if someone hits you, you got to hit them back. And I'm like, well, maybe we should, I got to learn how to punch someone. And she's okay, I take you to, let's look around for some martial arts schools. So we went looking around and we found a pretty good school. They sparred. You got to make sure if you're going to put your kids in a dojo, interview the instructor, make sure he's legit, and then watch some of his classes. The most important thing is watch the sparring, because that's as real as it's going to get. And depending on what kind of sparring that he does, I would suggest nowadays there's a lot of martial arts styles, but pick one that will work the top and the ground game as well. So, but back then I went applied for about 10 months consistently, but then after that it was just like lucky if I get to practice once or twice a month, because all the jobs my mom had to continue to, besides her full-time job, because she wasn't making like the ends meet. So she would have to go out and get other jobs to make the ends meet, So
now, can I ask you a little bit about your own father? Are you open to discussing that?
Oh, my dad? Remember, take that away from the father. For me, there's only one father. That's God Almighty, the Most High. I'm a dad. I see everyone else, we're just dads. You got to credit the Most High. That's just how it should be, because without him, we would never be dads. We wouldn't be sitting here talking. We would probably, who knows where we'd be at, right? But I didn't have a strong relationship with my dad. He stayed back in Vietnam.
Why did he stay back in Vietnam?
He had another family,
Got it.
So, my mom says, she's going, and he had a chance to go and he decided to stay, and, it is what it is. But later on they try to work it out and it didn't work out. And, it's just part of what the world, conjured up, because, I know from reading the Bible, God wants it to be like Adam and Eve, always together, the only two together, you know. So
Yeah. And what kind of relationship did you have with your father eventually?
The relationship I have with my dad, never strong, right? Never inspiring. And there was nothing inspiring that came from his mouth to motivate me. I think some good motivation was like, he was a judo champion in Vietnam. So when I started wrestling, you know, he's, let's see what you got. And, you know, I remember getting tossed around and landing really hard on the living room floor. And then that play, I can say that filled me in a good, but kind of like a negative way, you know? So every time I wrestled, I had that chip on my shoulder, and I wanted to, you know, like just, you know, do damage. And so I went in, and then, you know, luckily being, you know, guided by God, because I was faithful at a young age. I had good coaches, and the coaches always used to say, hey, it's not about being angry. You actually perform. You don't perform as good as when you're angry. When you're just having fun, you perform better. And then I just started having fun, and everything I did, I try to make it fun.
Yeah, but do you believe that? Because I look at guys like you with the Rage and Mike Tyson, people who have like true, deep down chips on their shoulder, seem to get by pretty well because of that fuel that puts them over the edge, gives them this extra competitive advantage over people who are just kind of like not having that. Back in the day, today might be a completely different thing because of how technical fighting is. But I think back in the days, like in the 90s and the 80s, you see all these like greats in the fight game. They just have so much rage for whatever it is. And a lot of them, you know, didn't have father figures unless it was their coach or their grandfather. Or, you know, who was your father figure at the time?
I would say my granddad. But, you know, if I look back at the whole spectrum of my career, of everything that happened, I have to credit God Almighty, because through my grandfather, I remember when I really took notice, and we're always eating, and then he was always there, like last to eat, and he's just sitting there making sure everyone's eating. And then one day I just said, you know, in Vietnamese, ông ngoại vì sao không có ăn đồ ăn với you know, my Vietnamese wasn't, I would speak part Vietnamese and English to him, and he said, I want to make sure everyone is fed before I eat. And then every time he eats, before the family even eats, he has us doing a family prayer. You know, then he would be the one teaching me about like stuff in the Bible and about God. And I didn't understand that much about Jesus back then because I was so young. I just wanted to play, but I know God Almighty was the creator of all things, heaven and earth and everything. And then, so I was more like, religious and, a faithful follower. Right. And I knew there was a devil, because what he taught me, but not until now, I realized looking back at my career, because I was always in prayer before my matches, after my matches, a couple days before my matches.
Wow.
And then along with all the prayers that when we eat together as a family. And my grandfather used to always say, did you say your prayers? Did you say your prayers? Did you talk to the Father? You know? And then that would just stick in my head. So I'm always talking to the Father. And I would just talk about, I didn't even realize I had a relationship with him. I just talked to him. And then I would say, you know, I love you. And then I would say my Our Father, and then the Hail Marys. And then, but now I don't even say Hail Marys because it's really, you know, I'd rather say just the Lord's Prayer because it's what I'm learning now, you know, so.
Yeah. Now, did your grandfather ever get to watch you fight?
My grandfather would only watch me fight on video or on pay-per-view, but he would never go to a fight.
Why?
I think they all came to a couple wrestling matches, and then he said it was just seeing someone he loves out there, fighting
Painful.
off their backs and stuff like that. And then it wasn't for him, but it was just I remember every time I was done any of my MMA fightings or any of my professional fights, I would have to call home to make sure, because he would literally be on his knees and pray until he knew that I was safe. So every single one of my professional fights, that's what my mom and my aunts told me, that, because I remember one time I didn't call back because I was celebrating, and then my phone was blowing up, but I didn't pay attention to my phone. Then when I got it, they're like, are you done fighting? I was like, yeah, I'm done. It's 1 a.m. Grandfather's still praying for you. I'm like, oh, okay. I, from that day on, I always make sure I won, even though across the, in Macau, when I beat Rich Franklin, and even when I lost, I would say I lost, and yeah, I learned, and thank you for the prayers. And so that's kind of like what got me to where I'm at, as a fighter in the martial arts and as an MMA fighter,
Now, what's your journey to get to the UFC? How did that happen?
The journey to get to the UFC was, I was content on what I already did in MMA, and then UFC just had bought out Strikeforce, and when I said, if I'm going to fight again, I'll fight in the UFC. If the UFC can't get me out of my Showtime contract, then I'll just retire and do movies, And then next thing I knew, I was in Lorenzo Fertitta's and Dana White's, the UFC office, and they gave me a new contract. They terminated my Showtime contract, and then, almost a year later, I was fighting on the card.
That's the early days, right?
Yeah.
Now, were there other Vietnamese fighters that were signed with the UFC before you?
No, I believe I was the first Vietnamese fighter that was signed to the UFC, and yeah, you would have to do some research and find out if I was.
Yeah. Okay. I know in your division for sure. In your weight division for sure, you're the first. But there are other fighters that may have been signed around your time or before. But there's a lot of information online. But because I hear that all the time from different people, and I'm always trying to figure out who was the first Vietnamese to fight in the UFC.
Yeah, I think it's not about who's the first, but who made the biggest
impact. Yeah.
So, and then that footprint just leads the way for all the other fighters.
Right. And certainly, your impact in the UFC for all of us, just like that win at the NFL, we were all, during those years, we were just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Big Vietnamese guys that were just crushing it, on mainstream sports.
Yeah.
Amazing to watch.
I remember, I forgot what show it was, but Dat Nguyen ended up winning the award. It was in Houston, in Texas. And then I came in as the runner-up. So.
Oh, wow.
But at that time, I wasn't a professional. I was still amateur.
Oh, so was much more ahead of. He was probably the first Vietnamese recognized in mainstream sports in our generation. Yeah. Now, you talked about acting. What inspired all that?
I think just watching too many Bruce Lee movies, and then I realized, after fighting, what did I want to do? Because while I was fighting, I also ran, a dojo, and it was just, you're the first one in, the last to leave. I felt like that, and I couldn't really pay the attention as a dad to my kids if I just continued to do fight game and doing this, and then just opportunities that I got, and like in the movie Fighting with Channing Tatum, then Pandorum with Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid, and then working with Wong Kar-wai and then Wu Ping in China. It was just I got a chance to experience it, and then I found out about how the business really works. You know what I'm saying? So
tell me about that. What do you mean by that? What?
Well, you know what? I just feel like that you kind of have to, give up something, like sell something, that doesn't even belong to you or the devil, in order to get to that highest level. So, and then, it's just a choice that when it came down to it, do I continue to pursue this career, or do I what do I want to do? And then I, with my wife, I found that that her mom does exorcisms, and has done over half the exorcisms with her mom, and then helping people, and then then I realized, and then I got closer to the Father, and I understood the relationship of the Father and the Son, and what the Son did for us. And then things started opening up, and I started, seeing some craziness in LA. Like everyone's saying it's the city of angels. Yeah, that's the city of fallen angels. There's a lot of demons. There's just a lot of, it's like everyone's in such a spiritual warfare, like I feel that everyone's so far from the ancient. You forgot who created you. Look, it's tough. You have kids, right?
Yeah.
You talked about how you should, what age you should train your kids, but like what you should really worry about, like a lot of parents, is I took my son Anthony out of high school, and he's homeschooled. LGB, this how I see it. God didn't create Adam and Steve; He created Adam and Eve. And with the LGB, when they're starting messing with your kids, and it's like nationwide here, right? I mean, look what's happened. Look what's going on. Mandatory vaccine at one point. I believe Biden just got COVID, and he's quadruple vaccinated.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to there's so many topics that we can go into, and I think that having a conversation before, you and I, we've had conversation before about this, and it's hard for me to go toe to toe with you on certain topics, because I think we have there's differences that we have, and then there's very similar things that we share together. I think the idea of a creator, and the idea of somebody who watches over this entire place, this world. There's got to be something that is designing all this intelligently and happening correctly, right? Yeah,
you are completely right. But if you're thinking about going toe to toe, then that defeats the purpose.
Right.
How about you share your knowledge and I share my knowledge with you?
Right. That makes sense.
Right?
Yes, that totally makes sense. But I don't think I'm personally equipped to share, I think, the things that because I think that I'm still trying to work out a lot of things.
So why don't I hear what you're trying to work out, and then maybe, because I truly feel God speaks through me.
Okay, sure. Damn, we're gonna do this.
Why not?
I have so much love and respect for you. And I guess I just don't, and I'm glad we're talking about this, because I've never wanted this show to be about confrontational style, or, and I think for you to even ask me that shows that you trust me, that I'm not going to, go into that heavy confrontational space. I think, and I'm flattered that you think that I think you feel safe enough that we're not going to like lose it. But I'm not so sure that I have what it takes to really get into it, to really express my views wholly without it being fully shaped to go out and really have this debate. So with that being said, let's attempt to do it. You started out with the LBGT, right? Now, I think I have a lot of gay friends and I have a lot of gay family members. There's quite a few in my family, and I've spent a lot of time with the gay community, and I'm in the artist community, so we spend a lot of time with each other. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of understanding and beauty as human beings with each other, and a lot of acceptance that I have been able to be a part of. I come from the U.S. military, the U.S. Marines, from 1993, 1997. I came out of that. I came in and I came out as a Republican. I had very strong Republican, and I grew up very religious, Christian background. So I share the same sort of theoretical genetics that you do about Christianity, and but after sort of maybe 10 years of leaving the Marines, I went to USC and studied a lot more about human behavior and anthropology, and it's opened my eyes to understand the way a lot of people think, including from where you come from, and from where the far right and the far left and everything in between. I have empathy for everybody's viewpoint. So that's kind of where I stand. I'm in support of the LGBTQ community through and through. I'm just hardcore. That's why I've left the Catholic Church or Christianity, because I feel like if you cannot accept all of God's children, then what have we left? We can't leave people out. It's just not. This is a really black and white situation. We can't leave anyone behind. Lesbian, gay, trans, everybody should be included under God's love. And that's the way, the one thing that just I can't get over. And so that's basically how I feel on a very fundamental level.
Okay. I totally understand where you're coming from. And here's where I'm coming from, right? Everyone has a choice, whether they make the right choice or the wrong choice, right? But here we're talking about our kids here. Now they're going to shove it down our kids' throats and make them confused about what gender they are. Then I have issues with those people and the LGB, because they're shoving it down our kids' throats. And as a dad, there's only one father. As a dad, I won't stand for it. So I take my kids out. I'm not telling anyone else to take their kids out.
Fair enough.
This is my choice I'm making for my kid. But at the same time, because there are a lot of good memories, but then there's a lot of bad habits that you can pick up in high school or school in general, because you're with all these other kids. Now, look, if you don't see what the LGB push has created, girls are getting raped in the bathroom. Okay. Now there's transgender, where the male thinks that he's a female and he competes in the female division, and he's smoking all of them because he's a male.
And now this is where we have to sort of step in and figure that part out, right? Because that doesn't make any sense to me either. You can't compete as a former male in a female division. That just doesn't make any sense to me, because the amount of chemicals, the amount of hormones, all of these sciencey things that are occurring within the male and the female difference is going to not create a healthy competition. Why can't we create a separate category for trans competitors, right?
No, it could be.
Right?
But whatever elites or whoever's running this, there's 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati.
But you know what, here
I can go into this deep, but if you read this book, the 13 bloodlines of Illuminati, they push.
Okay, but
they push hard with.
I think a lot of people like at that level where they're trying to make these decisions, right? And like I don't know if I'm even qualified to go toe to toe with you with the Illuminati and all that, but I can logically, from a very simple person, I'm a very simple guy, deduce this, which is this. A lot of people are still trying to figure out at the management level how to classify elite athletes. And I think that they haven't figured it out yet. And then once they see like that swimmer, Leah, I can't remember her last name. Once they figure out that she went in and just creamed all of these elite swimmers, that we can't do this. That doesn't make any sense. So I think that they're trying to figure out how to reclassify the transgender athletes that are crossing over from, men to women and woman to man. So I think that people are still figure it out. And once they've figured it out, it's just like, the use of steroids or drugs in the fight game. There's different levels to the understanding, like USADA and what they've done to the UFC and how they've managed all that information. I think it's an evolution of sports, evolution of humanity, and it changes.
No, like I said, like I understand where you're coming from. Right. And you're looking for a solution where there is no solution. They created this. Right. And that's where
we can kind of
they created this. Hey, let's not make this into like a debate. I'm trying to give you my knowledge and you gave me what you feel as a parent. But like I feel like I'm not going to step on any toes. How you parent is how you parent. But like I'm gonna talk like as me as a parent, right? When I see the big picture, LGB, transgender, and I didn't hear about 3 years ago, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they shove it down our throats. I mean, let's just not talk about the sports because that's a small percentage that we have to worry about. Okay, that the athletic commission in whatever sport should handle that real quick, but they're not. They're gonna let it go. It's in the Olympics now. The most important thing is our children. Now, if our children becomes confused, because I just did this show for my friend, it's a pilot episode, and they had 3 kids on there, and this was all about the kids, about their journey. I had to talk to someone who wanted me to explain, LGB, or explain maybe that they're not a female, but they might be a male, or they might be, in between. I was like, whoa. So right away I said, Father, speak through me. Right away, I felt like, why are they doing this to kids? Why isn't there like a limit when they're mature enough to be talked about it? Maybe it should be talked about in college, but why are they shoving it down our throats now? And when you are okay with it and let your kids go to school with it, your kids are being affected without whether you know it or not. So the reason why I said, God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. If you truly seek the knowledge and you've truly read the Bible all the way through, then are they, and God, here's the thing, God is a merciful God. Now they realize, this isn't part of the Bible. Are they willing to give that up? Are you willing to give up your house? Are you willing to give up everything and just walk the path with God? No one's gonna. I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but for the majority, no. Yeah, for the few, yes, because we understand, we seek God with all of our hearts. Yeah. But this is being pushed on us. This is an agenda, and I have to say, with all the knowledge that you already have and already know, you support it because of what you do, but like, you got to understand, What if it affects your kids? What if your kids start thinking your girl thinks he's a boy now?
Sure. Let me answer that. That's a great question and a fair question. I think humanity is evolving, and I think hundreds of years ago, there probably existed the same amount of percentage of people in different cultures, because you can read about American Indians having its own classifications of transgendered Indians. There's records of all of this stuff that happened in the 1500s and 1600s, and you can go to Thailand and you can see the classification is totally different from the way us Judeo-Christian society views this stuff. So if you want to take it back to like hundreds of years ago, this has always been, and my suspicion is it's been going on since the beginning of mankind. So when you ask me how I feel if my daughter, I'm going to be frank with you. I think my daughter is a very girly girl female. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But if it did happen, I would ask her and talk to her and have a conversation about what does it mean? How did you arrive at this idea? And really talk to her and get to know what that journey is for her. And I would be like what you said is, I would emulate God the Father and Jesus Christ and understand John 16. God is love. And I would love my daughter regardless of who she was. I would love her. I love my daughter and my son so much that I want to emulate God, and I want to emulate what God said in John 16, which is God is love. And I tried to talk to my mom and dad about that when I was growing up. I was like, wait a minute, there's like so much hypocrisy and molestation and all this like crazy stuff happening in the Catholic Church. And all I need is to understand God is love. And if we remove all political lines, if we remove all sort of theoretical things in the world and remove polarization and sides and red and green and all we go back to is God is love, and we all will be fine. So if I treated my daughter and got to know her and got to understand like what her thought process and go, you know what? I hear you and I love you. Continue to be you. That's how I would do it, right? That's just me. I'm like, I would love my daughter. I would love my neighbor. I would love people just the way 16 in the Bible, God is love. And that is, it's printed, I think, on the bottom of these In-N-Out cups, right? It's a huge thing that I feel like my mom and dad could never fight back when it came to that word for me. They could never answer in their logic to fight back with any of it. Okay, so wait, you're telling me like this whole homosexual like group right here has to get out of the Catholic Church or any sort of Christian church because they're gay? That doesn't make any sense to me. They're not hurting nobody. They're not doing anything to anybody. Were you born gay, mom? No. Were you born gay, dad? No. Well, nobody's coming after you guys for being straight, Let's just, this is the way I kind of told my mom and dad. I was like, let's just let them be. Let everybody be. And we can try to practice what you're teaching me from your Bible, which is God is love. I'm just telling my mom and dad that. And tiếng Việt kêu bằng like, it's cứng họng, right? It's like their throats stopped. They can't reply to that because you can't tell me that my connection with the Creator is a direct connection. I sit and meditate, do my 20 minutes in the morning and night, and I'm talking to, and I'm thinking and connecting with this like huge being, right? This omnipresent, omnipotent, powerful being that doesn't reside in a priest, doesn't reside in the church, doesn't reside in some temple or some synagogue. It's just me having a direct line with what you classify as your father. And I agree and I respect that. And then I think that the LGBT community or any community in the world, is fair game for love.
Okay, so I think you're totally missing the point where I'm coming from, right? I'm saying, okay, here, let me break it. I'm not attacking the LGBT. I don't even care about them, okay? I don't even want to think about them because how I feel is I took my son out of school because they're shoving it down my son's
Right.
trying to make him think differently about his masculinity.
Yeah.
And we all know that what's happening. They want to take the masculinity out of man. And so when people, that's why people who you say you meditate and maybe God has heard you, and that's why we're talking. Now let's go back to your daughter. Okay. You told me she's a girly girl. You don't think that's going to happen to her, but the school's agenda twisted her mind, and all set now she's tampered into this, where it says in the Bible says it's a sin, it's blasphemy against our Father. And your daughter was starting out great, likes boys. Now you got to keep boys away from her, and all of a sudden you find out one day that your daughter slept with a
woman,
with another woman.
Mm-hmm.
and maybe told you about it. But the true reason why she did that is because the school shoved it down her throat. So where do you draw the line?
Right.
And
right.
how come the schools have taken God the Father, who you meditate to 20 minutes twice a day? How come you're not upset about that, but you support LGB? You don't support the Father? You need to support the Father. These are his commandments. These are his words. How come we're not living by his words? How come you're not living by his words? This is your daughter. She's fine. She's girly, but you don't think she'll ever turn. But what if she did turn because of the LGB pushing in schools, in small schools? I even have a video that they're teaching kids in high school oral sex and anal sex, so that's how they're gonna stop, like, the population. The Georgia Stones just got struck by lightning and it went down. You don't think our Father's upset here? Oh, I know he's upset. And in the Bible, what everyone should realize knows, when he comes back, his robe's gonna be blood. When he comes back, he's playing music, and he's gonna be smiting the wicked. Of course, everyone's going to be judged. I'm not one to judge. I'm just letting you know what's written in the Bible. This is the Bible prophecy is going to happen. And I'm over here. I'm sticking up for my son. Now, if there's an LGB group, I'm not going out of my way to mess with them. I'm staying in my own little bubble here. But they are going out of their way to mess with my kids. So I'm putting my foot down. And I'm letting everyone know, if you are gay, I'm not going out of my way to attack you, but your LGB is going out of the way to attack my kids. So I'm going to protect my sons, and for me, I would hope every other parent would protect your kids. Your kids are going to school. Okay, so God doesn't make mistakes. We make mistakes. God gives us choices, and he doesn't micromanage. Here's the big thing. Moses went up to the hill after he showed all his people that he split the Red Sea with the staff, because he had faith in God. It opened. They walked through it. And there's even a documentary on History Channel or Discovery about this, and everything says that it opened. Then 50,000 Pharaoh troops came after them. Now his people saw what happened. They walked through this ocean that was open, and then the Pharaoh soldiers came through, 50,000 of them, with one command. The ocean swallowed them up, and all these people were saved. Moses did it through faith because he believed in the Father. So after that, then Moses had to go to the mountains to get accept the 10 commandments. When he came back, everyone was doing some nasty stuff, already worshiping another, God. And that's how easy we are deceived, because the devil, his name, he has many names, but I'll give you a few. Ancient foe of mankind. He was there from the beginning. Who do you think? Even in the Illuminati, it says they were the one who created gays. It's in there. 13 bloodlines. You can look it up. And after that, our Father still forgave these people because Moses asked them to. I mean, there's a line you got to draw. If you're gay or lesbian or LGBT or transgender or whatever you are, stay in your lane. Why are you trying to cram everything down all these kids and the parents? So as parents, you should like see what's going on.
Cung, first of all, I want to comment on our discussion. I want to tell you how much I appreciate you giving me the chance to listen, to speak, and then vice versa. We're having it's a very civil conversation that I would love to continue this in person with you one day, because I think that I don't have things figured out. This is because I don't have a lot of friends that sort of think the way you do, and I've left that community a long time ago. And one day, I think you and I sit having hours-long dinners. If you're in LA and I'm in up north in San Jose, you're still up there, right? Then we can carry this on for hours. And I think that I'd be more sort of open, because right now I'm processing a lot of this information, and I want to continue a civil discussion. And I want
no problem.
Yeah,
I wasn't getting like
no, you weren't
just passionate. This is my passion, my passion, because like I'm not trying. Let's just cut this off here. Just know that when you were talking to me and your knowledge, you skip A, B, C. You jump right to D.
Sure.
What is D?
And
jump
fair
right
enough.
to the devil. The D stands for devil. Because I'm telling you right now, who do you think owns schools?
Yeah, I like I said, we can talk a lot longer about this in person, and I want to. This is what I want to show the world, that two people, the Vietnamese community. I want to show the Vietnamese community this: two people on very extreme sides of the conversation can have conversation. We can
of course
and listen, but that's not happening in our community anymore, and
it's not going to happen.
Why?
Because this is the agenda. This has been planned.
I'm on the other side. There's no agenda for me other than expressing God is love. And God is love means we need to sit and talk, and we need to hang out, and we need to hear each other and give time. This is not the platform.
What did God tell you in the Bible about what happens if you don't teach your kids?
Honestly, Cung, the only thing that I take from the Bible is John 16. That's the only one thing. Everything else for me, dudes wrote it up. For me, it's just, I feel like there's
too much of a fairy tale for you?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's interpretation by men who, nothing was written by women. Men who were close to Jesus, or some of these guys were 2-3 generations down that wrote the Bible, right? They weren't like direct descendants of Jesus Christ, like Paul.
Well, the King James version is the closest that you'll get. And why do you think remember, there's books that were hidden.
Yeah, there's hidden books, and then there's that didn't make it in. We can talk a lot. I'll go deep with this stuff too.
I'm just letting you know now. This is the agenda. I can send me your number. I'll send you a Telegram link. I even have my own group, very small group, and these are the people that are woke. They know what's going on, and I'm telling you right now. I'm telling all your listeners, and I'm telling everyone, the great deceiver is out there, and we're living in Revelations, and Jesus is coming soon. There, I said it. There you have it. Believe it or not.
Fair enough. And this is a place that we can have this discussion, and we have, and I do appreciate from where you come from, and I am still navigating. I've talked to a few of my friends about, because I don't have many guests that are from from your sort of religious camp, right? You're the first person that I've ever had on, and it's a challenge to kind of navigate for me the conversation and how to make it still engaging between us and not shut the listeners off or not turning people off about either way where I go too hard or you go too hard. It's a balancing act that I'm still trying to figure out, and I enjoy the conversation with you greatly, and I really do, and I hope that we have more of these, and find out a way that people from all different parts of the spectrum can sit together and have a conversation. And maybe it's not as hardcore as religion, and maybe we identify a lot, because I love the fight game and I want to learn more about your life in the fight game, and that's what I came for, right? I came for the UFC and the fighting stories, and obviously this is a passion in your life right now. This is a lifestyle that you
hold on. It's always been a passion in my life. I've always given God all the glory. I've always prayed to him before every single wrestling match.
From day one, it was always like this, huh?
From day one. I remember as a kid, I had a little rosary during wrestling matches. In between matches, I'm doing my rosaries.
Wow.
But see, at that time, I didn't understand because I was praying to win. Now I have a relationship, and I understood. But I would talk like I was just a kid, and I was free to talk. And even though no one answered, I felt like someone was listening, right? And every time I won, and every time I lost, I took every loss as a lesson. And then so I've been close since I was young. And now I'm even closer. I'm at another, I feel like it's like what you put in, it's what you get out.
Right.
Look at this heat wave we're experiencing. My wife and I, we literally went on 7-Eleven. It was a heat wave. We woke up and we're like, man, we're going to get dressed up and go out. We just said, you know what, we're going to go to the beach and we're going to go to the place we got married. Literally, we prayed about it. The whole Monterey and Carmel had a mist. And then where we got married, there was it's usually packed because it's the most amazing view. There's people, we showed up, there was 4 cars, three of the cars are leaving. And before we showed up, literally my wife and I, we went to another beach where we got all baptized and we prayed there. Then we left and we came there. And when we prayed there, we just hoped for 15 minutes of just a place to ourselves so we can read each other our things and kind of get that connection with God. Yeah. And literally the 3 cars left, we pulled in, we're getting all our little, water, our packs. We walked in there. There was another car there, but no one was there. We literally was there for over an hour. And this is not normal. Then it became dark and we walked back to the car, and all of a sudden those other people were coming off the hiking trail. So we know, wow, just for that, you did all that for us. And it was scorching hot in San Jose. It's crazy. So, and a lot of these things happen for my wife and I. You ask and you receive, you seek and you'll find. What do you do? I think people are not seeking enough, and they don't have that relationship.
What do you typically do for a good time, for fun?
For fun, go to the beach, hang out, pray.
Do you drink at all?
You know what? I don't drink. To relax sometimes I'll smoke some weed. Yeah. So yeah.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Put in the barn, and I'll smoke just because I'm stressed. Yeah. Or want to relax after a hard day of training.
Do you still do you have to do other things outside of the fight game to kind of to exist, money and stuff, or do you?
Oh yeah, I do some private lessons, and then
but still in the fight game though, right?
I do more for people who want to defend themselves, or I do a lot of kids, and I train a lot of kids and privately, and then it's, and for me, after I train, and I make sure it's okay with their parents, whether they're religious or Buddhist or whatever, I still pray, and I pray to the Father, and they all want to come in. And every time I pray, there's people, even at the tournament I took my son to,
Yeah.
there's majority of them because they follow the Shaolin style. They might, think, there's a lot of Buddhists there, but when I put hands in, everyone was in, and we said a powerful prayer, and everyone was safe at the tournament. No one really no one got carried out in a stretcher,
Yeah.
So
Do you still train hard?
oh yeah, I still train hard. Yep.
And what sort of like style, or what do you do for training at your stage in life?
I still lift weights. I'll spar with my privates or my son, and then I work a lot of drills with my wife, and we're that family that we train together. And when my son fights, we corner him, and then when we go do exorcism, we're all in it together.
Yeah. Can we talk about? Well, we'll get to exorcism because that's a
yeah. I'm not worried about jumping. I'm just letting you know what we do.
When you say you and your wife corner, can you explain to our listeners what that is?
Oh, so when my son fights, like when I used to fight, I would always have a 3 cornermen, right? Someone who knows how to deal with cuts, someone who, makes sure everything's right, and the other person's coaching you, right? So I coach my son. My wife will, give him water, or
make sure he's right,
motivate him and say, you're doing a great job. And, like she's like, my voice is not as like deep as hers. So when I'll say it, she'll say it louder, and it'll get to my son, because a lot of times people are cheering and there's like fans are going nuts. So we gotta be loud. And so she's definitely loud.
Yeah, so the reason I asked that question is that very thing. It's like, I always hear about this like cornering stuff, right? And I always wonder, because you hear it when you go to a fight, you can hear the corners giving instruction. How much instruction can a fighter actually absorb from their corner when they're in high level stress situations?
It depends on the connection that you have with the fighter, right? If you're talking to the fighter, if you're coaching the fighter, which I do my son and all my other fighters, I'm very hands-on, right? I'll tell them, hey, take a deep breath. Look at me. I want to see your eyes at me. Take a breath. Okay. Good. Okay. Your left hand's down. You're not throwing your left kick. Where's your jab? Establish that jab. Feints. And where's your feints? Take that angle. Why are we standing in front of him? Take a deep breath. Go out there, hit what's open, and defend what's coming. Got it? Good. Take a deep breath. Let's go. Boom. Next round.
And does it get to the fighter's mind? Are they able to implement?
Oh yeah.
Instructing?
See, what you don't understand about fighters, they have when you're in there and you're fighting at a very high level, there's got to be some intelligence up there.
Yeah.
You got to be able to process, and you got to at the same time slow down your heart rate, slow down your breath, and and listen to your corner, because if you don't listen to your corner, things happen. I learned the hard way. I didn't listen to my corner. I ended up losing these matches.
You can't be a dumb person to be winning
No, it's not. You can be dumb and strong and win.
Really?
But when you get to the high level guys that know how to fight, that has been not know how to fight. Everyone in the fight game knows how to fight, but has been in many wars and has a lot of experience. Those guys will pick apart those like the meatheads.
When you think about your son, and you obviously as a parent, we know how intelligent, how talented, how skilled, and when we look and we analyze their life and their future, and we're like, maybe, like my daughter wants to be a singer, and I go, in my brain, I'm like, okay, I think you're here, and maybe you have a shot to get to here, but to get to here is not really where the pay and the money, you got to get to here, but maybe they don't have it. Do you have those thoughts with your son or any of the fighters you work with?
Yeah, of course. Like for me, because I'm very detailed, I'm going to find out exactly what my fighter or my son truly wants. And if he truly wants to be a fighter and give it all he has, then I give him all my knowledge. and I guide them through it. And there's a saying, and there's no wrong answer. Would you rather be wise or would you rather be smart? Right? There's no wrong answer, but most people pick. What would you pick?
I would pick wise. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
So both parties, we're going to learn from our own mistakes. That's being wise. So we get the knowledge from our mistakes or things that we learn, right? But the smart ones will ask the wise one what they did and not make those same mistakes. So he's being smart and wise, right? So I'll always have those talks with my son. Let's be smart about this, and let's learn from all these other fighters. Look at the mistake he did here. Look at all these mistakes these fighters made. Let's avoid them. How do we avoid them? Let's implement these game plans so you're not even in these positions. So we got to manipulate these things. But of course, now with all the experience I've had over the years, and I'm coaching my son, I'm even better now. So it's a big benefit for him. And and my other son, he's in real estate. I tell him, you got to go after it. Like it's that hunger. It's just like training. You train, you do good in training. The same effort in your training, it has to go out there in your business and your everything that you do in life.
But we got to see our mom and dad and these people struggle, right? The previous generation of the Vietnamese, we got to see these people like work 2-3 jobs and scrub toilets. I mean, we saw them really get on their hands and knees for us, and they would remind us, our kids are not seeing that, and they have beautiful homes and they're living in comfortable situations. Do you think that they will ever be as hungry as you and I?
I can't speak for them, but there's a different level of being hungry, but for me, I think my son will be, because I'm the one giving him examples and showing him through, practice what you preach. I'm doing it with him, or he's seen me do it. So he's seen it. But I think that's the biggest problem these days is the parents need to be a little bit more involved with their kids.
That's a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah. They
don't care.
People don't care. It's all about, everyone's so stuck to
selfishness
their ways, and it's hard to see through that layer.
I mean, sometimes I'm sitting with my kids and I'm on my phone, and I'm like, what am I doing? I catch myself all the time. I'm like on my phone, I'm looking at social media shit that's not even important, and I gotta consciously, and I'm thinking to myself, if I at this age and this aware am having trouble with this addiction, with things that matter the most, my children, I can't imagine how young people are dealing with this shit.
There's kids that run into things because they're on their phone, or there's some that playing a game and walk off a cliff. That's how bad it is now. And, like I said, everything's an agenda. Sorry to say it, but it's the truth.
Yeah, the agenda is money, a lot of money, especially with the social media stuff. Now, let me ask you this. I want to cross over into the exorcism game. Are there any comparisons? And we'll get into how you got into it, but I want to know right off the bat: are there comparisons when you practice exorcism to the fight game?
Oh yeah, the biggest thing is before you're getting ready to go fight and you're in that zone. It's when we know we're going to do an exorcism, we get in that zone. But at the same time, the biggest difference is I don't stay tense, because that's what will tire you out. For me, I know it's coming. The fight's going to come. It's going to happen, and I'm in prayer up until I fight. Same thing. I'm in prayer, and when I'm in prayer, I'm happy. I'm good. I'm connected. Then when I'm at that fight, I already know that, because the two biggest thing here is when I go into a fight, I believe I'm going to win. but I don't know because anything could happen.
Yeah.
When I'm in this fight, I know it's going to be scary, but I know I'm going to win because I'm not doing anything except be the vessel there and say my prayers and, command it in authority. So it's all my faith and all the Lord's doing. So I'm just there as a vessel.
Can you walk me through from the moment you get a phone call that this is something that you need to show up to the very end?
I can do a quick breakdown.
Yeah.
Going back to this is when I've never done an exorcism. I had a buddy of mine call me because I just started my mother-in-law and my wife's Instagram called Spiritual Battles Worldwide. And then the first week he posted her talking about her 400 plus exorcisms that she's done, and they all been successful. And all of a sudden, a couple posts, I added a couple more posts about Ouija boards, stay away from Ouija boards. And next thing I know, my buddy calls me, and this was like 8:30 at night. And by the time 9 o'clock came around, my mother-in-law knew that we had to get down there, and it was 3 hours away, 3.5 hours at Pebble Beach. So we drove all the way down there, and literally everything that my mother-in-law told me that would happen happened. Like, if something knocks at the door, don't open it. No one's there. If the smell is really rotten, just walk away and start praying. If it smells like burning, don't worry. Your house is not burning down. The house is not burning down, right? Everything happened. Then when I truly saw my first exorcism and what it knew, I mean, at the time, only 4 people knew that my wife was pregnant. It was her, myself, my son, and then her mom. And during a prayer, when the person turned, literally came up and said, "I'm gonna eat that baby of yours." Oh. Crawled up in a weird way, then started doing weird stuff, bending backwards, and it at that time I was definitely, it was like my words were like, you just frozen, like deer in headlights, right? My mother-in-law was like, "Close the door." My job was to keep her fiance away from the group. So my mother-in-law did it outside in the backyard. And of course, my buddy's all, "Oh," it's like, he's all, all my neighbors are going to think I'm crazy. I'm all, "You better hope the cops don't come." That's how loud it got, so just from that. And then after the next day, after my mother-in-law and my wife cast out 8 demons, they sent us a picture because they ended up putting us at a hotel because we were done like at 4 a.m, right? We got a picture of her bow tie and her hair was a number 8. We have the picture. And before we came, there's a letter that he took out of her journal that already told us that already knew that we were coming, and it was going to take our soul too. So, I mean, it was like literally that was like the devil himself talking to us.
Now, all these threats that you get, like taking your soul and, your baby and all these threats, is there a possibility that it can happen? No, then it's just empty threats from
empty threats. But if you believe it, that gives them more strength. They feed off fear and they feed off their lies. And the more you believe, the more strong they get. That's
how many have you gone through now?
In cases like demonic attachment stuff, I say about 30 with them. But like on their, they from 400, they're close to 500 now. 500.
So there's more happening than just demonic attachments.
Oh yeah, so right now the demons are more aggressive than ever. But at the same time, when there's 2 or more that gathers in God Almighty's name, God's in the midst. So when the first exorcism I saw, it was just my mother-in-law and my wife, and they cast out 8 demons, and she looked crazy, right? I mean, but lately, when now I'm involved and there's me, my son, my wife, and we all put hands on them and we all pray. And it's so powerful that the demon don't even get a chance to fight. It's out, because we're created in God's likeness, and we're in His image. So that's what a lot of people don't realize, how powerful they are. And what do you think? What's going on? Like chemtrails and GMO foods and everything in our water. There's a reason for everything.
Now, the possessed subject, when you guys are fully have released the demonic attachment, do they go back to normal lives and become regular people again? Or
Yeah.
or are their souls or their psychology, is it compromised for the rest of their life?
No, once they get like, if it's a successful exorcism, put it this way, our last exorcism, it was in Corona, California. We went on, and as we were walking up, because we like to park our vehicles far away, so because the demons, they have power over electrical, and they can ruin your vehicle and do certain stuff to it. But we were walking up, and this girl was in a wheelchair and already covering her ears and shaking. And soon as I didn't expect we were going to start, right? My mother-in-law came there, smacked the cross on her head and started praying, and we all put hands on her. We all started praying. And then when it was done, my mother-in-law says, anoint her. And I saw like that big imprint of the cross. It was hard not to look at it. And I was like, trying not to look at, the eyes, because if it's still there, you never want to look at it in the eyes, right? So, but after we were done, every single one of her member, like her family who was there, was affected, because they always try to help her, because she goes into seizures and stuff like that. So they try to help her. So they're all affected by this demonic or multiple entities. And so, but when we were done, we cleansed the house. We cast out everything in the house. We cast out everything for them, all their attachments. She was walking. She didn't need a wheelchair. So things like that happen. And then after, we end up going off, we go off and work on the next,
Wow.
whoever else needs help. That's how it works.
I remember back in the day when you were in your acting mode, you were talking and working with another director named Ham Jung.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember Ham.
Yeah. I think he had a project called Boiling Point or something like that.
That's right. Boiling Point. It was a script that was, I remember that you guys were in negotiation and trying to work the deal out. I don't know if you know this, but because Boiling Point was an action film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if you know this, but that director is very much into this, he's very into the horror. He's very much into exorcism and the stories that happen in the supernatural space. And I told him about you and, our conversations, and he was like, very surprised, because obviously we all know you through UFC, through fighting and the serious high level game. And I can't imagine this being anything less than high level for you, right? Like you're approaching this with the same seriousness and the same tenacity that you would with.
Oh yeah. Like when you cast out demons, you have to you got to have authority, because Psalms 91, you have authority to tread upon the lion and the adder.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Maybe in a few more episodes down the road, we'll do just maybe a podcast just about exorcism, and maybe have Ham on we'll both kind of ask you questions, because it's a very
sure, no
fascinating
problem.
Yeah. Would you be open to that?
Yep, totally.
Very fascinating conversation about exorcism and how you got into it. And I'm sure there's so many. Do you document and video any of this stuff?
We have a lot of documents. We have some videos. Just, upon personal request, we do it for like educational purposes. Some people don't want us to
Of course.
use it, but some don't mind. So we're thinking about putting a show together. I actually have a showrunner. He's out in LA. He's directed and produced My American Family. So he's very he's a very devout follower of Jesus Christ. So
Got it. And there's no money exchange with exorcisms, right?
not for us. Yep.
Well, I'll take a minute to let that soak in. You do all of that for free.
Yeah.
And why not take money, or why not be, what is it against the practice of exorcism that you can't take money?
In the Bible, it says don't take money, and they offer you food, take it. If they offer you a place to stay, so you don't have to spend money to stay somewhere else. And then so sometimes we'll, for gas money, we with the demand now, we might have to ask for some gas money, but like other than that, we don't want to. We want to do everything as the book tells us to do.
Right. And then what about false alarms, where people think that there's a demonic possession, but there is not?
Oh, they have to answer a bunch of questions, and we would know right away.
What's the questions, if you don't mind? Like some of the questions.
The normal question is, have you played with the Ouija board? Have you talked to anyone, like the tarot card holders, or the mediums? And then have you dabbled in witchcraft therapy, or is anyone potentially cursing you? And what are your symptoms? What do you feel? Tell and explain them. So they have to answer all these questions. Then we get on the phone with them and we talk to them, and right away, like now that I've had so much experience, I can tell. We've probably talked to about 15, 20 people that think they had something, and there was nothing going on. But we found that out really fast, Yeah, but like the crazy thing is, like my mother-in-law has been saying it for a long time. The devil doesn't want people he already has. He wants people of God. He wants people that is on that line of like I'm gonna commit to God all the way, or like the confused. They're looking for anyone that they can that they can swindle. It's just crazy. Like you can see it happen to a lot of just innocent people that don't understand. A lot of it's people like their friends are playing with the Ouija board, and they're in the same room, but they're not playing, but they're the weakest in the room. So the attachment goes on them. A lot of like single moms or single dads end up saying, I feel something. And right away, we know they're not after you. They're just making you weak so they can go after your kid. Because when you're that weak and you're all messed up, you can't help your kid.
What is the ultimate goal of the demons if you never get to them, right? If your team doesn't get to exercise a person, what happens over time with these people?
Actually, we've had witchcraft cases where people got cursed. We've had people's kids who are like on the borderline, and we prayed on the phone all for them. Or after we get off the phone with them, we get their names and everything about them, and we all put our hands together, the four of us, and we pray. We pray to the Father in Jesus Christ's name, and then we check up on them. And usually within 3 days, they're like, my life. Then now a lot of them, they're calling, hey, should I just met someone. We're like, whoa, slow down. Just seek God first before you start looking for a relationship, right? So a lot of people don't understand. Oh, I'm free now. I feel great. I want to go do things. No, don't jump into a relationship. The relationship needs to be built with the Father. He just saved you from a demon. It's not us. It's the Father and the Son. We're just there. We're just a vessel. That's it. We don't take any credit for it.
You know, the reason I do listen to these stories and have belief that there is some reality to all of this is because, again, if you go to thousands of years of human culture, you see possessions. You see all of these type of stories, good and evil, and you see people, shamans, or you see, in your case, people who are exercising. This is a reality, I think, that happens that we can't really explain it yet in terms of like quantum physics or, in a physical manifestation. In theory, we can't really talk about it entirely.
I think the easiest thing is, right? A lot of people say, well, I don't believe in God or I don't believe in the devil. But do you see the air you breathe? Do you believe in air? How do you think the air got here?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're entirely right. There's science like quantum physics right now, which is like computers, quantum computers that are happening, like they're turning an object this way and it's going another way at the same time in another part of the world. Nothing's connected. People, scientists don't even understand how that's happening yet. If that's going on, to me, this is the way I look at it. If that's going on right now and the air you breathe and you can't explain it as, 100 years ago, we can explain it. Now we can explain it. All this other paranormal, supernatural stuff, it will be explained one day, I think. It'll be.
Hey, do one research for me. See where funding from NASA is coming from. Then you'll know what science is all about. Science was, remember, I gotta say, because we read a lot of the lost books or whatever they call it. Man, the things that the devil did to Adam and Eve, then you understand how he got his ideas of everything that's going on. It all started back then. And I think there's a boiling point for our Father. And I truly believe Jesus is coming back soon. Like their agenda is 2030, right? That's their agenda. That we will all have nothing but be happy. That's what the elites, the New World Order, and everyone will be chipped. And at one point, look at why would these stones have to manage the population at 500 million people? Why would they even have it on there? You know who put it on there, right? I think the Masons and all these groups, the Rothschilds or Rockefellers or whatever they are, they serve one God, which is, the devil, not even a God. A lot of people don't even know what the devil is. Everyone thinks he's like an archangel. Do you know what the devil is?
I mean, biblically, it's Lucifer who, came down from heaven.
Where was Lucifer before on the right, that, when he was on the right side?
Right side of God. He was God's right-hand man. He was
he was a cherub.
Light.
With 4 faces. That's like the highest angel there. It's a cherub. He guarded God's throne, and so now he's got the name, Ancient Foe of Mankind, the ugly dragon, the serpent, the creator of all sins. So if you look at it, there would not be no sin if the devil didn't do all he did. I'm just...
Yeah. And I appreciate the conversation today and thank you so much. I feel like, as I said, every conversation with you will get more enriched. It'll get more, we'll find our flow, and I would love to have you back on and maybe have another guest sometimes, like Ham.
Sure, no problem.
About exorcism and stuff like that. But for the most part, we have another 7 years till 2030, and we're going to keep tracking this, you and me, on this show. Thank you so much, Cung. I really appreciate your time and your all of the work that you've done in your world, and it reflects greatly on part of the tapestry of the Vietnamese culture.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Vietnamese with Kenneth Nguyen. The Vietnamese is produced by Brittany Tran. Special thanks to Jane Nguyen, Catherine Nguyen, Tina Pham, Sydney Jamie, and Christo Trin. Please find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Vietnamese Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can subscribe, like, and comment. Please rate and give us a review wherever you find our podcasts. Thanks again for listening.